second week of our Brave series. For the next few weeks, we're going to learn about what it means to be brave. So today, we're going to talk about using some of the gifts that God gives us. Using our gifts well is another step closer to being brave. So, let's start with a little discussion with your family. I want you guys to pause the video and answer these 3 questions together. What is the best gift you've ever received? Who gave it to you? And why was that your favorite gift? So pause and discuss with your family. The best gift that I ever received was a handmade gift from my dad. He wanted to get a keychain engraved for me with this quote on it. It says, "You are changing this world one child at a time." And that's October 26, 2012. But he couldn't find the keychain he wanted, or even the cost of engraving it was so exorbitant because you paid like $2 per letter. So he found this little scrap piece of metal or some other shiny material like metal. He cut it into the shape he wanted it, got the hole punched through it, and then he hand engraved, it's so faded now, but he hand engraved, can you even see it? These words on it. It's very hard to see, it's very faint. And then he wrapped it up in the horrible way that dads have of wrapping presents. And it was the best gift I've ever received because of the heart behind it. Most of us have received a gift that seems like the best gift ever, even like my keychain from my dad. But today, we're going to learn how God gives us gifts that are so much better than the best gifts we've ever received. And He even helps us to use those gifts. Did you know that God can help us use our gifts? And I'm not talking about gifts like a Lego Hogwarts castle or an ultimate slime kit. I mean the ways that God made us gifted, or the way He made us good at stuff. God gave us each some special skills and things we're really good at. Like last week how I shared about my dream to be a paramedic and how that wasn't what God wanted for me. But God showed me who I am by showing me the gifts He had already given me and teaching me how to use them. He put me on a completely different track in working with kids than my paramedic dream. And so that brings me to this week's big idea. God can use my gifts. Let's check in with Carl and Cassie and see what they have to share with us about today's big idea.
Holy guacamole.
Welcome to Grow TV. Introducing your host, Carl. And your co-host, Cassie. Where we learn, where we grow, and we talk about Jesus. Once again, welcome to Grow TV.
I can't believe that. It was, and then it was just, wow.
Hey, Carl.
Cassie, I'm so glad you're here. I have so much to tell you.
Okay, calm down. What happened?
The most glorious thing. Do you remember what we learned about last week?
David becoming king?
Exactly. Well, I just read the next chapter today, and
Really? What happened?
well, the nation of Israel was at war with the Philistines, and David's older brothers were fighting with the Israelite army.
David wasn't fighting?
Nope. He was still just a kid. He was a shepherd, which meant he took care of sheep. I learned that because I'm a genius.
So what did David do next?
Well, he was told to bring food to his brothers, but when he got there, he saw a giant of a man. This giant's name was Goliath.
That's right, I remember his name. He was a Philistine, right?
Correct. And he was a real bad guy. But the thing is, everyone was afraid to fight him, even the king.
I can imagine. What happened next?
Well, get this. David went into the king and told him, "I'll fight the giant."
David? The youngest brother? The shepherd boy? That's crazy.
Right? Well, the king said yes, and David went to get ready, but he was so small that the armor didn't even fit him. But David didn't even need armor because he knew God would protect him.
Wow, that takes a lot of faith.
Sure does. So David walked out in front of Goliath, and Goliath looked at David and started to laugh. But then David said, "You come at me with the sword, but I come at you in the name of the Lord Almighty."
So Goliath had a sword? What did David have?
He had 5 stones and a slingshot. He learned to use his slingshot when he had to protect his sheep from bears and lions.
Oh, I see.
So Goliath was on his way to attack David, but David put that stone in the sling and swung it around just like this, released it, and that stone went right in between Goliath's eyes. David walked over, grabbed Goliath's sword, killed Goliath, and he saved all the Israelites.
Whoa, I can't believe that.
Right? The Israelites won.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking something else was even more incredible.
More incredible than Goliath being defeated?
Actually, yeah.
Like what then?
Well, what was David gifted at?
Well, he knew how to throw rocks with a sling.
That's right, he was really good at that. That was his gift, and God used that.
He also knew how to use his brains in battle.
That's right, David was creative and smart. He used what he did know how to do to figure out something he didn't know how to do.
So God used David's gift to defeat the Philistines and to help others.
You got it. And I think it's important that we find out what our gifts are and use them for God.
That's a good idea.
So, do you have any gifts, Carl?
Gifts? Of course I have gifts.
All right, what are they?
Watch and learn. And voila.
Wow, that was really cool.
Thanks. I know. I'm pretty impressive.
Yeah, sure. So, how do you use those things for God?
What do you mean?
I mean, all of that is great, but if we have talents and gifts and we don't use them for God, what's the point?
I guess I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, we just can't forget that God is the one who gave us those gifts in the first place. So it's our job to use them for God.
Wow, you're right. I guess I just need to remember that God can use my gifts.
You know what? That sounds a lot like our big idea this week.
You're right. That's our big idea. Today's big idea is a big one.
It's that God can use my gifts.
So on the count of 3, we're all going to say the big idea together. 1, 2, 3. God can use my gifts. All right. You did it. Woohoo! That's good. Today's lesson sure was fun.
It sure was, but I'm kind of bummed
Really? Why?
because I never got to show my gift.
Oh, well, it's not too late. What's your gift?
I can disappear.
Wait, are you serious?
Yep.
You're telling me you can disappear?
Yeah, you want to see?
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see you Cassie? Cassie! This isn't funny! Okay. Well, I guess I'll see you guys next week. I have to go find Cassie.
Hey, Carl.
Thank you for watching, and tune in next week for a new episode of Pro TV.
Having the gift of disappearing would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? But it kind of sounds more like a superpower. Anywho, okay. Last week we learned that God chose David to be king of Israel. He instructed a man named Samuel to go to David's father's house and wait until God told Samuel who was the right son to do the job. God told Samuel that David was the one, and Samuel anointed him. We were reminded that God knows who we are, and today we're going to discover that God can use our gifts. So, today's Bible story comes from the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, chapter 17. We're kind of all over the place, but we're going to read verse 3 to 11, 16 to 25, and 32 to 50. So if you have your Bible today, or you can look up a Bible online and read today's story with your families, I'll put the scripture references up on the screen for you too. Pause and read. So much is going on here. Let's kind of break it down. So we saw that there were two groups at war with each other. We had the Philistines and the Israelites. And Goliath issued a challenge to the Israelites. He told them to choose a man, one man, and send him down to fight him. And if the Israelite won and killed Goliath, then the Philistines would become their servants. But if Goliath won and killed the Israelite, then the Israelites would become servants to the Philistines. Ooh. Imagine being in the Israelite army. Could you just imagine what they might have been thinking when they first saw that huge Goliath step out? All of us face situations where there seems to be a giant obstacle in our way. And those kind of situations can be very scary. But God never leaves us. He helps us to fight those obstacles, just like God helped David fight the giant Goliath. So, let's continue. Do you remember in our story today who volunteered to fight Goliath? I hope you said David. David volunteered. And he wasn't a warrior. He wasn't covered in armor or carrying a shield. All he had was his shepherd's staff, 5 smooth stones, his sling, and God. And who won the battle? David took down that huge giant. When we fight battles in front of us, we're never alone, and God gives us just what we need. Let's check out another verse to see what it says about using our gifts. We're going to look at 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10. 1 Peter 4, verse 10 says, God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. This verse tells us to use the gifts we have to share with others. So I would love for you guys to pause and discuss these 2 questions as a family. Number 1, why do you think our gifts should be used in that way? And number 2, what might happen if we don't use our gifts to serve others? So pause and discuss. Each of us is unique and has special gifts given to us by God, not only to use to benefit ourselves, but to bless and serve others too. David used his special gifts to help an entire army and a group of people to be safe. Next time you're outside, I want you guys to find your own stone or rock or something, and with a permanent marker or paint, write on that rock something you need courage for. Then hold that stone when you pray and ask God to give you courage for that situation or whatever you wrote on the rock. Use that stone to remember that God can use our gifts. We discovered in our Bible story how David was brave to fight the giant Goliath. And we too can be brave when we face big obstacles in front of us. God is always with us. As our Creator, God knows us and helps us use the gifts given to each of us. Nothing is too big for God, or for us when we have God beside us. Our memory verse for the month comes from Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. I'll put it up on the screen here, but let's say it together. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. Isaiah 41:10. Keep practicing that memory verse, and maybe you can even write it on a rock as well. Well, as always, be sure to check out our link in the description below for the Grow at Home page, our coloring page, and some extra activities this week too. Thank you guys so much for joining us this Sunday, and I can't wait to see you again as we learn more about brave stories in the Bible next week. See you then! Bye!